Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your host, Brent Bilski, a.k.a. Double B, or the 110 Soldier. Today, got to talk the NBA basketball. Jokic versus SGA MVP race is going to be very, very exciting. It continues to be kind of the big story of the NBA. Also, the Lakers-Warriors, I think, really could save the NBA in a struggling year. And speaking of struggling basketball, WNBA, Angel Reese and them are threatening a boycott. And no one gives a shit, but I'm going to talk about it because I just can't let that go. They continue to just not understand the point or the issue. So many other things to get into as well, but I got to start off with the first picture. Hit it for me, Mateo. We are getting into NFL to kick things off. Free agency, and I just want to make a point here quickly. I got some business I got to cover in the first part here. They're not psychic.
You're psychic. You can predict
Let me clarify what I'm trying to talk about here. An NFL free agency, and I know it's exciting, and I know NFL fans are really always into these parts right before the draft and after. The Super Bowl just happened. Everybody's got something they want to talk about, and this is the best thing you can get because there's a lot of big, exciting moves that happened in NFL free agency frenzy. I am not arguing that, but the point I want to make quickly is to all NFL fans, do not panic. Do not freak out because so many times they get all of this wrong, and then we look back a year later and go, oh, wow, you guys were completely full of shit. You had no clue what you were talking about. So, like I said, I will at least point out there has been, dude, so many moves, so many activities. I don't have time to Step Brothers the whole thing, but I'll give you the highlights for people that have been kind of asleep the last few days as the NFL free agency really kicked off this last week. The big news and the big moves were things like the Texans traded their star left tackle Tunsil to the Commanders. I thought that was interesting because I know C.J. Stroud is not happy, and I mean, he was just too expensive. They did get some picks back, but that seemed a little weird. DK Metcalf is now a Steeler along with George Pickens. There's going to be a lot of highs and lows out there in Pittsburgh because those are two studs that are very inconsistent. They also had to pay him 5 years, 150, so we'll see how that goes. Speaking of making a lot of money, Myles Garrett did finally re-sign with the Cleveland Browns after saying he was not going to, but they offered him $160 million and $123 guaranteed, and suddenly he's like, you know what, Cleveland can be a shithole city, but that's a lot of money and I'm going to stay. Josh Allen also got big boy money, 6 years, $330 million, $250 guaranteed. He's going to stay in Buffalo. In quarterback news, which is the ones we all love to pay attention to, Daniel Jones is now on the Colts to compete with Anthony Richardson, which I think will be an interesting QB1 battle, and a 1 year, $17.7 million deal means he's not that expensive, so that seems like a good deal. Justin Fields is now on the Jets because Aaron Rodgers is now a free agent, and they got, again, Fields for cheap, 2 years, $40 million. Aaron Rodgers, we'll see, might not even leave New York. He might stay and go over to Giant Land, but we still got to find that out as time goes on. Joey Bosa, another older guy looking to revitalize his career, is now a Buffalo Bill. Buffalo keeps getting this close to beating Patrick and the crew, and even though he's older and injured, Joey Bosa, I think, kind of a la Kelsey to go into the Chiefs would be a nice pickup at the end of the regular season going into the playoffs. Devontae Adams is now a Los Angeles Ram, which sucks because Cooper Kupp was cut, and I thought that was a pretty interesting move as Cooper has been just phenomenal for the Rams for years. He is now a free agent and has been replaced by Devontae Adams. And in more quarterback news, Sam Darnold, who I guess was kind of the darling of the group, is now a Seattle Seahawk for 3 years, $110.5 million, $55 guaranteed. He ends up leaving Minnesota and going to Seattle. And in Seattle, they got rid of the guy they used to have, Geno Smith. Geno Smith is now with Pete Carroll on the Raiders, and they're going to be a nice pair again. We'll see how they'll be able to do going forward, as there's a lot of hopes that maybe Geno and Pete could kind of start, and doing some things there. So again, a lot of move, a lot of activities, and all that's great. But the reason I bring all this up is that you are going to see constantly for the next week or so grades and opinions and kind of this kind of bullshit psychic idea that they have all the future figured out. It's nonsense. First of all, the draft is not till April 24th, and that's where you win or lose in the NFL. Too many teams panic and overpay in this part of the year because it's hard not to go for big names and stuff, but the problem is usually you have to trade a lot of draft capital and you have to pay too much. And so to make my point, and I got the psychic guy and everything, I want to look back just a year ago. I want to go ahead and remind you guys just how bad even NFL experts can be when they try to grade free agency. And it's not even really their fault. Look, it is so far from an exact science. We still got a long ways to go before we get the full rosters, team chemistry. And I mean, it's just hard to predict the future, man. Only 2 to 6% of all financial advisors apparently can beat the market. Doctors get diagnoses wrong all the time. There's people who study a lot and end up not getting things right. It's really not their fault, but it does need to be reminded to the fan who's either too happy or too sad right now. Dude, the grades are the grades, man. A lot of times they don't mean shit. Cut to this next picture for me, Mateo. I got 3 perfect examples here for you. This was just brilliant. So last year, just to give you an idea, Saquon Barkley, when you look and go Google all this, was given a D or a D plus grade for the Eagles picking him up. A D or D plus. 3 years, $37.8 million. He was too expensive. You know, we didn't know about his health, but I mean, he had to overpay for him. And I mean, he's not even probably better than Jonathan Taylor or Nick Chubb. He only had 1 full healthy season in a 6-year career in New York. You know, there was people that really said out loud that they were concerned that you paid him too much and he wasn't a Chubb or a Jonathan Taylor. Of course, we all know he went on to set NFL records, including the most rushing yards, 2,504 just last year, beating Terrell Davis and winning the Super Bowl and getting his contract extension. But at the time, last season, he was rated a D. Kirk Cousins, though, oh, the experts like that. Kirk Cousins of the Falcons, they definitely like that. It was an A or A minus for that 4-year, $180 million contract, and man, he was the missing piece. With those weapons and that O-line in Atlanta, I mean, why did they draft Penix? That's just ridiculous. You already got Kirk Cousins. You don't need Penix. Well, cut to week 16, Kirk Cousins gets benched. Thank God they drafted that rookie. He gets benched for the rookie because at the time he was leading the league in interceptions and fumbles and did not work out so well. DeAndre Swift, I kind of have to pick on him a little bit because it goes back to at the time, oh, the poor Eagles. They had to overpay for Saquon Barkley. And DeAndre Swift, you know, he ends up leaving and going to Chicago. And oh, the poor Eagles. They gave that grade a B+. Because, I mean, along with Caleb Williams, who's going to be the next big thing, and Keenan Allen, I mean, they might go to the Super Bowl. And then, you know, didn't really work out that way, did it? Career low, 3.8 yards per carry this season, and still has 2 years, $8 million a year on his contract, and now has become kind of an issue there of, you know, is he even worth trying to keep around? So to review, Saquon Barkley, just last season, experts gave his grade a D, said he was too much money, had to overpay, health's an issue. Kirk Cousins, though, was the missing piece in Atlanta. He was going to make them a Super Bowl contender. He was going to be amazing. Why did they even draft Penix? That was stupid. Turns out they had to put in Penix for him in week 16. And DeAndre Swift, the poor Eagles, had to overpay for Saquon. They could have kept DeAndre. Instead, now he's in Chicago where they might win a Super Bowl. They had a terrible year, and he had a career low in yards per carry. This is far from an exact science, NFL fans.
You're psychic. You can predict the future.
Now, they got some right and they got some wrong, but you can Google all this. Go back and look just last season, 2024. Just look up any sort of free agency grades and you will laugh your ass off at half of them because it's just hard to predict the future. It's hard to understand this early what's going to happen, especially before the draft where the real winners and losers are actually made in the NFL. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Another quick house note I want to get into. I was going to avoid these 2 stories, but they are 2 of the biggest that went the most viral this week, so I wanted to include them both, and I'm going to put them both in the same segment here. Mateo, if you can hit the video for me. I want to talk about LeBron James and the Everett family, and I'm going to call this a couple of apparent mistakes. Couple of apparent mistakes, and what I mean is between LeBron James chewing out Stephen A. Smith and the track Baton smack girl, a.k.a. Alayla Everett, I saw 2 well-intentioned parents who, I get it, you want to defend your kid that in the heart and the heat of the moment made a bad decision. I mean, LeBron versus Stephen A., you know, even Stephen A. at the time, right after the incident happened, said, you know, he approached me like a dad, and then later admitted on another podcast that was some weak bullshit, and 90% of people agreed with him because LeBron, dude, he's not in high school anymore, man. I mean, you tweeted out, too, as a lot of people remembered, before he made the league that Bronny, your son, was already better than half the league. So you kind of put a lot of this onus on him for us to pay attention. Then you got him drafted to Los Angeles. But I mean, even just parental interference, as it's been pointed out, when you were a rookie, there's a famous clip of you're in a fight and altercation in the crowd, and your mom tried to jump up, and the first thing you did was tell her to sit her ass down because you understood at the time that even at just 21 years old, parents can't fight your battles for you in the NBA. Bronny is 21 years old. He has a 4-year, $7.8 million contract and is a Los Angeles Laker just like everybody else. And I am rooting for Bronny. I understand the heart attack and everything else maybe makes you even more protective. But, dude, he did his job. You can't go out and bitch about it. And I think most people agreed with it. So I want to move on from that. The Everett family, a.k.a. the track Baton smack girl, this video that went viral, y'all needed some PR training. And look, these are a bunch of innocent parents and people that, not innocent, but they don't have the training to understand that coming out after that, and after that went viral, and saying things like it was a clear accident and that was actually maybe her fault, the other girl, and then going on to be like, well, what about us? I mean, we're getting all sorts of mean things said about us online. And then, I got to go to court 3 hours away from here. That's a pain in the ass. It's, again, a couple of apparent mistakes. I understand your instinct to want to protect your child. But, dude, that's a terrible defense. And both of those situations only made things worse for your children, because I think this was actually the impetus that led to, the track girl now is actually getting assault charges. That news just came out yesterday. Layla Everett, who contends the whole thing was an accident, and again, watching the video and over, it's just hard to believe. And even if it was an accident, as most people have seen the viral video by now, why didn't you check on her then after the accidental smack? That's going to be my continued question. I don't know. Alleged guilt, innocence, I don't have any answers for you. All I know is that usually if I accidentally, crack someone in the head with a baton and I didn't mean to do it, I would go check on them. I would go be like, hey, are you okay? She didn't do any of that, and now is facing assault charges as Layla Everett. I'll go ahead and read you the article real quick. This was interesting.
And I read.
Is facing misdemeanor charges of assault and battery for the video that showed her hitting a competitor in the head during the second leg of the 4x200 meter relay. That other woman was a young lady named Colleen Tucker. This happened on March 4th, and an attorney for the city of Lynchburg has confirmed there is a misdemeanor charge of assault and battery issued. As you saw in the video, she was reaching for her head after being hit. Now, Everett, when she went on Good Morning America right after this, and her family and her parents continued to say things like, it was an accident, I would never do that on purpose, it's not in my character. The parents of the little girl said that they believe the video shows that actually it was Tucker's fault, because she ran too close when she tried to pass her, and it was the proximity, and she didn't give enough space before she passed is why the baton got caught and caused the weird arm motion that led her to crack the other girl in the skull. Following the incident, the Everett's, the one that did the hitting, her father did apologize. I just want to throw that out there, although that has not been as reported as much. And now, because of all the death threats and online things that the girl is going through, not to mention assault charges, the NAACP in Portsmouth has also decided to come in and kind of intervene on her behalf, saying, look, this is a good girl, everything else, and she may have, done something wrong, but it's not criminal charges, yada, yada, yada. I will say this about the whole thing, as you can hit the next picture here for me, Mateo. I don't want her to be the one that has to be at the forefront of this discussion, but this is something that has driven me nuts for a while. And while I feel sad that, Layla is going to be the one that is maybe the guinea pig in this situation, getting an assault charge in sports is a conversation I've wanted to have for a very long time, because in sports, this is far from the first time we've had assaults, we've had fights, even weapons that have been included, whether they use some part of their equipment from the sport, and it's just such a foreign concept, even though I played sports. Like, in work, dude, it just doesn't work that way. Like, could you imagine if, like, you got mad at somebody at work, like, oh, Jim, he was interrupting me during my presentation, so I decided to take a hole puncher and whack him on the back of the skull with it. It pissed me off. That is not a good way to handle things. And in any other situation outside of sports, your ass would be fired. You would be, charged with assault, and you would be in court or in jail. I mean, why is it allowed in sports has always been a question of mine. Even if it's just fist, but especially when it's a weapon. Myles Garrett with the helmet, as you see in the picture. It hasn't happened as much as people think, but there have been times where baseball players have gone after each other with baseball bats. Of course, the beanball, which I'll get into more here in a second. And, of course, the girl here that we've been discussing, Layla Everett, who, I'm sorry, that picture with the arrow, it's pretty clear to me, dude, that's an extended arm. I got my arm caught. When you look at that one picture, and again, I have to say allegedly, dude, that's a reach out there. That's a full, I'm trying to stay away from her because she's just a kid and she made a mistake and she needs to learn from it. I hope she doesn't go to jail or have anything serious happen to her. The question I want to get back to is that, is it okay, or why is it never more of an issue in sports when there are fights, assaults, especially things involving weapons? And why is this high school girl the first one to get suddenly thrown into this whack-ass assault charge? First of all, I didn't know there's kind of a legal gray area here that has always been a point of contention because they've had these incidents happen a lot over the years, but it's an idea of consent in professional sports that makes things different, especially with physical sports, that you can't, I guess, have a battery charge without proof of them not consenting to the physical nature or violence of the sport that they are playing in, and it's kind of a general opinion that athletes agree that the game is physical, and so a lot of times the question goes, even with helmets or anything else, does it go beyond accepted violence? Now, in my opinion, it's a hell yes. But it's very rare that we actually lead to charges, and also it is important to note that the other athlete usually has to go along with the charge, which is a whole nother thing about machoism and not wanting, to look like a bitch even though you got smacked with a helmet, a bat, a baseball, or a baton. But it has happened. So just to clarify, we have actually had a couple convictions for assault in sports using your equipment as a weapon. It's only been in hockey, which I actually found kind of shocking, but in the NHL there was two convictions. In 1988, a guy named Cicerelli, and in 2000, a dude named McSorley, both were convicted of assault and battery for using hockey sticks during a game, and two others were charged, but I guess, again, it didn't go past the beyond the rules of the game argument, which I still don't really kind of get. But the one I really want to point out, and someone's going to have to explain this to me at some point, the beanball in baseball, how that's not, other than it's accepted. That's the only thing I can understand why, because we've been doing it for over 100 years, but I've always hated any argument that tradition is the reason we should continue to do something stupid. It is the clearest form of assault, maybe in any sport, if we at least can all agree that fists are one thing, but using any sort of equipment is another. The beanball, where you just peg them in baseball because of all sorts of unwritten rules, is nonsense. The average MLB pitch is 93.7 miles an hour. A baseball is lethal once it hits at least 90 miles an hour. Actually can be lethal at even 80 miles an hour. So even if they take something off it, you can actually kill somebody when they do this, which is peg somebody with the ball on purpose. And again, the reasons that are done is what's fascinating to me. Because in baseball, if you don't watch it, there's a bunch of unwritten rules. And a lot of times I get to just pelt you because of disrespect. Like, that's how it goes down. Like, if you hit a home run and you stare at the home run too long, apparently I can wait like literally a month, 6 months, a year, and the next time I see you, throw a fastball right into your back. It could go high, it could go low, it could go anywhere, but apparently I have the right to do it because you walked around the bases too long and you're too slow when you hit your home run. That's disrespectful. Again, I just can't imagine in work. I was trying to make a phone call, and then the dude next to me disrespected me, so I took my snow globe and I threw it at him as hard as I could. It is not allowed anywhere else, but apparently in sports, it's allowed mostly with fist because of the accepted or kind of general understanding that it is a violent or physical game, and without no knowledge of consent, you cannot then argue battery. I will say, unfortunately for this high school girl, Miss Everett, that picture and others, it's going to be hard to argue that that was an accident when you see the wind-up, when you see the full extension. I do not want her to be the first one to get bloody through the door, but I do think it is time we do look more at this. At least can we all agree that if you use a baton, a helmet, a bat, or a baseball as a weapon, that is assault. I don't care if you're playing a sports game. You can't just hit people because they piss you off. That is not how the world works in the usual situation. So I just want to throw that out there. It's tough for her. It's tough for her family. Again, I would have avoided the whole woe is us. This was clearly an accident, and it's actually the other girl's fault that she got whacked in the noggin. Those might not have been the best arguments to go with, but they don't have PR training. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, if she wouldn't have cut me off, I wouldn't have had it. In other news involving Mr. LeBron James, the parent, as I was just discussing him a second ago, this is interesting. There is now a new conspiracy theory going around that's actually kind of, you know what, if he's doing it, I'm okay with it. If LeBron is doing this, I'm okay with it. There is rumors that LeBron is faking his current groin injury because he's trying to wait for the playoffs, and I never thought I'd say this. I'm 1,000% in defense and in support of LeBron James doing this. As the Lakers now fall to fourth place, just so you know, they've lost 2 straight. after LeBron left the game Saturday, Boston, around the third or fourth quarter with a strained left groin. I have heard anything from 1 to 2 weeks. I have heard anything like his agent saying no timetable to return. It's kind of this mysterious groin injury, and so a lot of people are calling bullshit. A lot of people are saying to LeBron, dude, you're faking it. It just happens to be coinciding with the end of the season right before the playoffs. We all know you're full of shit. Matter of fact, videos have gone viral. If you can hit this one here for me, Mateo.
A new LeBron conspiracy. Is he faking injuries at the end of every season to rest before the playoffs? LeBron posted this story right before his injury, complaining about the difficulty of the exact stretch of games he's set to miss. And at ApexJones22 tweeted that there is no injury and that he does this every year. And 46,000 of you liked it. Probably because we all just saw LeBron mysteriously sit out of the All-Star game, despite not missing the Laker games right before it and after it, which could be its own conspiracy. So we have to look at his injury history. Last year he played 71 games and didn't miss any real stretch of time. 2023 though, he did miss 13 games in March but played every playoff game. 2022 is when the Lakers didn't make the playoffs, but LeBron did miss the end of that season, perhaps because there was no need to play. And then 2021, he went out in March and didn't come back until 2 games before the playoffs. I think that might be enough evidence.
Yeah, that's a lot of evidence altogether. He probably is doing it. I mean, he probably is at least not as hurt as he's putting on, and there might be a conspiracy that he is faking the injury. And I never thought I'd say it, but for the first time in my life, I think LeBron has every single goddamn right to fake or wait or take time with his injury. He is going to be, without question, the most, as far as longevity will always be LeBron's legacy. Longevity will always be LeBron's legacy. Everyone likes to make arguments about why he's so great. I will always argue his consistency and his longevity. I mean, the dude is 40 years old in his 21st season. He has played 1,550 games played this year. Just this season has played 58 of 63 games, and he is currently still 40 years old in his 21st season, 1,550 games total played in his career. He's played 58 of the 63 this season, and he is still somehow averaging 25, 8.2, and 8.5 at 40 years old. That is first, second, and first on his team, and he is number 1 on the entire Lakers roster in minutes played at 34.9. I actually think if anyone can make the argument that the old man deserves a break, I will actually go with this theory that LeBron James has every right to fake an injury, and god dang it, he might deserve a break. I mean, LeBron James is really old.
I'm a grown-ass man,
He's a grown-ass man. In the NBA, it's hard to understand how old LeBron James really is. So I got a visual here for you. Hit it for me, Mateo. How old is LeBron? I'm glad you asked. Fun fact, LeBron James has played against 35% of the NBA ever. I'm going to repeat that. LeBron James has played against 35% of the NBA ever in his 21 seasons. There's been a total of 4,898 people who have played in the NBA throughout history. LeBron has played against 1,744 of them. 35% of the league LeBron has played against. That's how long he's been in the league. He was drafted in 2003. And a lot of people, it's hard to remember just how long ago 2003 was. So in case you missed it, Britney and Madonna kissed at the VMAs. Finding Nemo had just been released along with Lord of the Rings, the third one, The Return. Apple had just launched this thing called iTunes Music Store. Some guy named Tom started this thing called MySpace. Good luck to you, Tom. Facebook wasn't even invented yet, and we had just started the invasion of the Iraq War trying to go get Saddam Hussein. So this dude, when he got drafted, what was going on around him? We just invented MySpace. We just invaded Iraq. Apple's just invented iTunes. We just released Finding Nemo. And Britney and Madonna had just kissed for the very first time. Oh, not to mention, he's been around so goddamn long. He's played 35% of the entire NBA, not current, of all time. That is an old, grown-ass man.
I'm a grown-ass man, dog.
If anybody deserves to take a 2-week break and fake it, it is LeBron freaking James. And I never thought I'd be the one to be in his corner and in his defense, but I'm absolutely with it. Matter of fact, I'll tell you when to come back and when fans should expect it. Either the game before or the game April 3rd, Golden State Warriors. That'll give him just enough to finish 7 more games along with the 58 he's currently played. That'll get him to 65, which is enough for him to still be eligible for his All-NBA, where he has a record 20 straight. So just try to come back either the Houston game before or the Golden State after, and go ahead and be ready for this playoff push, because we don't just need you, the NBA needs you, and the Warriors need you, and that's a big one. I got to talk about this. This is something that I brought up last week, and I'm going to bring it up again. because I really do think Lakers versus Warriors could save the National Basketball Association in a year where they are really struggling for stars and need something to keep us excited about. I mean, we've all been pumped up since the Luka trade, but both teams have been surging. And if we can get Lakers and Warriors, not just in the playoffs, in the Western Conference Finals. Hit this picture here for me, Mateo. I'm telling you, Adam Silver is going to be spewing so much ectoplasm.
There was a ghost. There's ectoplasm.
Oh, just rubbing his nipples. So much ectoplasm. If Adam Silver and all of us can get the matchup that we need and want, Lakers versus Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, dude, that is, oh. Got to cover my pants just thinking about it. I'm not even joking. I mean, this could really fix the NBA, and the NBA needs this, dude. Just like when the NCAA women a couple years ago, I told you needed Caitlin versus Angel, and they got it, and that led to a bunch of ratings when they were struggling. Just like MLB last year when I told you they were struggling. Man, they need Dodgers, Yankees, Shohei, and Judge, and they got it. This is the exact same thing. No matter what anybody says or wants to make you believe, the Lakers and Warriors are still the only two teams, Steph and LeBron, that really move the needle, and adding Jimmy and Luka has only made it stronger. Lakers versus Celtics was the most watched regular season game, this one just last week, in 7 years, 4.6 million. Warriors versus Lakers over Christmas was the most watched Christmas game in 5 years. The most watched regular season game before that, the one the Lakers and Celtics, was the Warriors and Cavs in 2018, Steph versus LeBron. It is our two American stars we have left, along with Jimmy and Luka, who's also, of course, Jimmy's American. But it's the race for 5. It's just, there's so much intrigue here. And if we get what everyone says we're going to get, I still think Cleveland has a shot. But if we get, on the other side, the Boston Celtics, and then you get the Lakers versus Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, no matter who wins, we all win, because there's a story both ways. If the Warriors are able to pull off the upset, then Tatum has a chance to get his revenge, not only on Steph for beating him a couple of years ago, but on Steve Kerr for benching him in the Olympics. And if we get the Lakers versus Celtics, the all-time considered greatest rivalry in arguably all of professional sports, not named the Sox and the Yankees, that would be then to try to tie them for 18 championships. That would be absolute beef. So no matter who wins, we all win. If the Warriors win, it's Tatum's revenge. Going back to try to get against Steph, trying to go back, try to against Kerr for benching him. If the Lakers win and they go against the Celtics, now we got Boston Celtics for like the 100th time, which is always one of the greatest, most watched series of all time. Adam Silver will literally pee, poop, everything else, cream, jizz his pants if he gets this thing, and I am with him on this. We need this really bad. As much as I've said before, we needed, Angel versus Caitlin. Like I said before, when we needed Shohei versus Judge in MLB, we need Lakers versus Warriors, and I don't want it early. I want it in the Western Conference Finals with everything on the line. I will actually probably be right next to Adam.
There was a ghost.
Oh.
There's ectoplasm.
So much ectoplasm if I can get that done. I'm telling you, that is the one we need. It's not time right now in the NBA for Cleveland versus OKC in the finals. This is a struggling league for ratings. We do not need that shit. We need the teams that have the top, watched games in all the NBA, and it's not even, hyperbole. It's the Boston Celtics tied with the Lakers at 7, and then at third place, the Golden State Warriors with 5. They're the teams that move the needles. We need those 3 teams left and to go ahead and try to be in the NBA finals. I don't care. This league has already been accused of fixing shit for God knows how long. Fix it. Do it. Literally fix it this time. Don't even try to bullshit. Fix the whole thing, because there is at least a very good opportunity, the way things are going, that will actually get it. I'll explain it to you actually here. This is pretty interesting. If you get this next picture here for me, Mateo. How we can actually get them in the Western Conference Finals. If the regular season ended today, we'd actually have it. We would actually have it. So you need them to be in separate brackets in order for them to not have to meet in an earlier round. Again, I think that just, blows our wad, literally, pause, whatever you want me to say. I think that screws up everything if they meet too soon. I want them in the Western Conference Finals, so they need to be separated in the 2 different brackets. And as you can see in this very tight Western Conference right now, the Lakers, even though they lost 2 in a row, are currently in 4th, and the Warriors are in 6th. That is a perfect bracket. That is exactly what both would need, including the teams involved in it, to try to make a push and meet in the Western Conference Finals, because I believe the Warriors can beat Denver, the 3rd seed. They're a one-trick pony. They have one all-star in the last 10 years named Nikola, who's been amazing, but he's by himself, and they have no bench to speak of. One thing the Warriors have always had and continue to have now, and we haven't even got Kuminga back, is strength in numbers. The Warriors then could go on to beat either Minnesota or Memphis, because Memphis has a consistently hurt Ja Morant, the same kind of one-trick pony problem that they have out there in Denver, other than Jackson, who I believe is hurt too with a sprained ankle, and then either either that or would have Minnesota, who's really just had a rough year this year, and they would have them in Golden State at home, where it would be a very tough road for Anthony and the boys. So I actually think that is a perfect 4 spot for the Warriors. Those 3 other teams, that's a very good matchup for anybody they play to make a push into the Western Conference Finals. If the Lakers can stay at 4 or somewhere around there and the standings were to end like they did today, it's a little tougher for them. I think Houston would be obviously an easy victory for them. They would have home court advantage, and Houston's very unexperienced, and I think that would actually be an easy win. Both teams, though, other than that, man, the Thunder, of course, and the Clippers. The Clippers are really being slept on by everybody, and if Kawhi Leonard's healthy and James Harden is anything like he is usually in the regular season, that's a tough team to beat. But it's still a possibility, and we could actually have it. So this is the roads we need to keep them in. We need to keep the Lakers somewhere around the 4 and the Warriors somewhere around the 6. And I even looked into it. I thought this was fun. Even in the projected standings where all the nerds do their analytics and try to push to see, at the end of the year, there's like 16 games left or something like that, who would actually be where in the playoff seeding. Well, the Lakers, according to the projected standings, according to basketballreference.com, the Lakers would be in 5th, the Warriors would be in 6th. That's not perfect, but that still puts them in the 2 separate brackets I need. And, man, it is so crazy. The projected win totals is 49.5 for the Warriors and 49.6 for the Lakers. Both of these teams have really caught the world's attention. The ratings are there. They're surging. They're winning a lot of games. And as long as they're separated, they can then meet in the Western Conference Finals. But, man, the Lakers, other than the LeBron injury, obviously, have been looking very good. They've had the 3rd best record since January 1st, 22-9. And the Warriors have been on freaking fire, 12-1 with Jimmy Butler, and Steph is more motivated in the last 2 seasons than I've seen him in a very long time. Since he's had Jimmy Butler in the last 10 games, 29.5 points a game for Steph, 6.5 assists, and is shooting 51% from the field, 44% from threes, and 97% from the free throw line. Steph is locked in. LeBron is locked in. The league is locked in. The bracket even says we might be able to get them in the Western Conference Finals. Please, God, don't mess this up. Please, God, don't screw this up. We need this one. Adam needs this one. We all need this one. This is something the NBA really, ratings are not what they need to be, and they would be if you get these two one more time in a race for 5, and then again, no matter who it is, they play the Celtics where there's storyline galore, whether it's Steph Curry versus Tatum or it's LeBron and the Lakers versus them and the Celtics. Ooh, yeah. That is exactly what we need. Please make it happen. Hope you like that idea.
I like that idea, and I will support it.
I know I do. In another completely different note here, I want to stay in the NBA, but another big matchup, and this is actually the one everyone's been talking about. We're not even focused on teams right now. The best race currently in the National Basketball Association, as I try to get my papers right here, let me just go ahead and put that there. I'll put this one up like this. There we go. Hit the next picture for me, Mateo. The next matchup that we need to discuss, and the one that has been more discussed than anything else, is the MVP race, Nikola Jokic versus SGA Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And this has got a lot of intrigue. This one is very, very curious to see. And I think finally the joke is going to be on Joker. Is the MVP race a big joke? Because in Jokic versus SGA, SGA being the runner-up last season and Jokic being the 3-time MVP this season, Vegas has it close with SGA as the favorite. He's actually number 1 right now, Jokic second, and Giannis and Tatum are a distant 3rd and 4th. So it's definitely between these two, and it's a fun contrast. I mean, you got the 3-time MVP, Mr. I don't care, I just want to go home and ride the horse, versus the 0-time, never been close, but has never actually made the MVP award with the extreme work ethic, young, kind of more exciting than Jokic, and so it's a nice contrast, big, little, I don't care versus I care too much, exciting versus fundamental. I mean, there's a lot of different, caveats there we can look at, but I'm really curious, and this is the thing that a lot of people seem to be doing, is giving Jokic and they call it voter fatigue with the MVP vote, where, they say it comes from that voter fatigue, like after you've won a few MVPs in a row, a lot of guys who deserve more didn't get it because not only do they just get tired of voting the same person in, but you're always going against your past self. However, the joke this time is that Jokic is better than he's ever been. The year Jokic is having is insane. If you're putting him against his past selves, this is the best Jokic I've ever seen. And while we need a new face of the NBA, and I've been one of the ones preaching this, that Jokic and his laissez-faire attitude is a little scary to put at the top of the charts as for everybody to come watch, look, and go, put all the eggs in his basket. I would much rather give it to SGA, but I don't know if I can give it to him because Nikola Jokic's numbers this year are freaking insane. When I say insane, I don't think people realize. Hit this video here for me. Joker's numbers for the MVP this year are goofy. Nikola Jokic is averaging 29 points per game this year, 12.9 rebounds, 10.4 assists. He would be now top 3 in all of those categories, not to mention tied for second in steals. He would be the only person since Wilt Chamberlain 63 years ago, if he continues this pace, to be top 3 in points, rebounds, and assists at the end of the season. Just the other day, he posted his first ever 30-20-20 triple-double. That was the first one ever in NBA history that anyone's had a 30-20-20 triple-double. Craziest part about that is when he sat at the 10-minute mark left in that third quarter of that game, he already had 13, 10, and 10. He already had a triple-double. He came back midway through the third and fourth quarter and had another triple-double of 18, 11, and 12. He had 2 triple-doubles in the same damn game. Nikola Jokic has had 29 triple-doubles this season. That is more than the next 3 players combined. Denver is not struggling. They are tied for second in the West. Their offense, thanks to Jokic, generates 125.6 points per 100 possessions. That makes Jokic number 1 out of the 290 that are available in that category. And what's even crazier is that this is now the 10th straight year that Jokic is doing all of this with not one other single teammate selected to the All-Star game. He does not have one All-Star teammate in the last 10 years. Plus minus makes it even crazier. The Nuggets are plus 507 when Jokic is on the court, negative 206 when he is off, a 713-point difference this season. That means they would be projected to win 50 more games with Jokic on the floor than without. Even SGA only projects to 18 more wins. Jokic projects 50 more. Player efficiency rating, which I know is new analytics and a lot of people don't like to pay attention to that, is 28.5 and 29.17 in the playoffs. That would be number 1 all-time in the playoffs, and his 28.5 is higher than Michael Jordan average over his career. And even his attitude, I gotta admit, the Joker's starting to grow on me. This whole kind of laissez-faire, I don't give shit, I want to go home and have horses, and it's just a game, it's just job. Maybe that does help him because he always seems cool as a cucumber. He is number 1 in clutch points as of, I believe, January 7th, the last time I saw it, but he's always one of the best clutch players in the league. And there's something to be said about when you kind of realize, unlike some of these people that put all the pressure on him, that, dude, it's just a game. In the end, win or lose, we're going to be able to be all right. Maybe that's what we actually should push and kind of look at and try to present as a face of the league. It's just been so foreign to what I'm used to, which is, caring about it so much, it's almost just ruining your life. The Kobe's, the Jordans, Tiger Woods, Magic Johnson, Larry Birds, Tom Brady's, like that. That's the thought process I've always gone with. I really struggle with the guy that tells you openly it's just a job and I can take it or leave it sometimes. But I think maybe in clutch situations, it's exactly what you need. I think of his buddy Luka. I saw him before making a game winner a few years ago doing bottle flips during timeout, wasn't paying attention. There's something to be said about when you're relaxed and you're easy that you can just go ahead and make the game look easy, which is what Jokic does. I mean, to have 2 triple-doubles in the same game, 29 this season, and is, again, more than the next 3 players combined. He has been an absolute animal. If he gets to be top 3 in points, rebounds, and assists, and is the only person to do it since Wilt Chamberlain 63 years ago, it's hard to take it away from him. And look, I like SGA. I want to throw this out here. I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I get a kind of voter fatigue and desperation to want to make him the new face of the NBA because he is a freaking ball player. I remember at the beginning of the year when he started kicking the Warriors, I was like, Jesus, this dude has hit another level, and he has absolutely hit another level. Hit this video here for me. SGA is having a hell of a year out there in Oklahoma City. They lead Denver by 12 games. They are a way higher plus-minus differential at 12.5, I believe. But again, they lead Denver by 12 games. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this season is averaging a number 1 in the league, 32.8 points per game, 5.1 rebounds, 6.2 assists, and is still tied for second in steals. He has had 11 40-point games this season. He has set 4 games of 50 points this season, one of only 12 to ever freaking do it. He still somehow shoots 52.5% from the field, even though he takes 11.3 attempts per game. There are only 2 other people in the league that shoot that high of a field goal percentage and take that many attempts or more. That is Giannis Antetokounmpo and Jokic, both 7-footers. He does it as a guard. He is first in total points. He is first in free throws. He is first in estimated plus-minus. He is first in drives, where he actually has scored 237 more points than the person behind him, anyone else in the league. His ability to get the shot whenever he wants and look like he's never rushed, even in clutch situations like you see here, he is just so slippery and so in control. The only people I can think of when I watch him isolate and do what he does is prime Larry Bird, prime Luka, prime Kobe, and prime Jordan. It is a short list of guys that seem that untouchable and unstoppable in a one-on-one situation. Oklahoma City is actually on pace to win 67 games. They probably won't get to 70 because they have to win all 16, but still, one of the best teams in the league by far this year, and they are 12 games ahead of Denver, and they only had one other All-Star this year in Williams, who was kind of an All-Star for SGA. And again, the opposite of Jokic. They say this dude does not just care, he's relentless in his work ethic. He's what we expect. Is he what the NBA needs? Is he what the face of the league, the guy who actually cares and doesn't just pretend to care? You know, a la if you went to see Taylor Swift win a Grammy and she was like, I don't really care about the trophy. Or if an actor won an Oscar and said, it's really no big deal to me. Is that something that maybe the league is tired of in Jokic? And with SGA, do we then have the guy who not only shows you how much he cares, who has relentless work ethic, but still has enough numbers to make it a competition? As much as I just said all that, no, I don't. I really don't think so. I think, again, the joke is on Jokic. This is the year you deserve it more than ever, and I think you're going to get robbed. I think Jokic is going to get hosed, but his numbers do not lie. And again, Denver, while they're 12 games behind, Oklahoma City is in second. It's not like they're sucking. It's not like they're 8th place. Their record is good enough, and he has been more than good enough to earn his 4th MVP, which is insane. It puts him like with LeBron and Wilt, and I mean, only people he has to beat now are like Kareem, Jordan, and Bill Russell. It puts him in complete rarefied air, and like I've always said, you'll ask him and be like, that's cool, I guess, but did you see my horse the other day? He won 3 races in a row. I love my horse. Like, he's not going to care about it too much. He's not going to make too big a deal out of it, even though he's making all-time history like he continues to do, but he deserves it way more than SGA, even though SGA's team's doing better. That's really the only thing he got. He's only barely averaging more points. I mean, look, I think the joke's going to be on Jokic. I think he's going to get hosed. All right, I got 10 minutes. I'll try to make this quick. Oh, Lord, let me try to make this quick. All right. I have been asked, or at least thought about this issue, just letting it go. Letting go the WNBA and all their bullshit and all their whining and all their insufferable behavior. But it's difficult, man. It truly is difficult to let go what happens with the WNBA because they continue to be the insufferables. Hit the picture here for me. Mateo. I really call this the insufferable's dilemma because just a couple weeks ago, I was trying to let go of all this, but there were 3 things that happened. I'm like, God, these ladies still just can't seem to handle the idea that they need to work on their image as much as they need to work on anything else. And it started with after Asia won Time Athlete of the Year, or Woman of the Year, after Caitlyn won Time Athlete of the Year, there was suddenly just complete quiet. Nobody had anything to say, which I found completely annoying because when Caitlyn won, it was hands across America about, well, why is it not the whole league? Why is it just Caitlyn? Why isn't it everybody? And that really pissed me off because that let me know what time it was, that it was the same cover, same kind of award. And one person, it was like, owners coming out. I can't believe that we would individualize one person. This creates resentment. And then Asia wins it. And we're like, oh, that's great. Oh, yeah, Asia, we like Asia. That's cool. Nothing to say. That pissed me off. Then I had forgotten about a couple weeks before that when Asia Wilson literally told Josh Hart, NBA player, New York Knicks, that she could beat him 11-8 in a one-on-one competition, which is interesting to me considering that Josh Hart is not only taller, he's faster, he's got more weight than you. That means he's stronger, he's got a higher vertical, he's got a better ball handle, he's got a better shot. And even GOATs like Serena Williams have said out loud, I am the greatest you've ever seen in women's tennis, and I will get crushed right now by the 200th man out there. There's just a difference between the two, and I get tired of having to discuss it, so I tried to move on. And then Candace Parker, somebody I really respect, then went out of her way after they were talking about the unrivaled one-on-one competition, how the NBA wasn't matching it in their All-Star weekend, to do things and man up this and man up that, which I explained at the time. Look, I'm fine with. I use that term myself, but y'all are the ones who lecture about the unfair gender stereotypes and this pressure to conform to certain gender roles and everything else, and then you basically called a bunch of NBA players a bitch because they didn't want to play one-on-one and they need to man up. That is hypocritical to your movement, and that has been the WNBA's problem from jump. They keep trying to blame it on these invisible this and invisible that, and I always look like a jerk because I continue to focus on this. The problem is I want the WNBA to succeed, and I warned them. I said this a couple years ago with all the hesitation in the world, like, man, I'm a basketball fan and I like you, but I'm telling you, y'all keep blaming your low ratings and your lack of money on a lot of things other than the fact that y'all are insufferable. Insufferable. The meaning of insufferable, just so you know, means you're intolerable, that you're showing unbearable arrogance or conceit, extremely annoying, unpleasant, or difficult to bear. That is basically the behavior of the WNBA consistently, as they have fingers out, they have palms out, and they have nothing, including a mirror to look at to get any level of accountability. It is just a frustrating time trying to root for the WNBA. Saying all that, Angel Reese and Dejanay Carrington have entered the chat. This came out a couple days ago. Trying to let it go, but they said they're going to boycott if they don't get more money in the new CBA. Hit this for me. This was on Angel's podcast the other day. Angel and Dejanay said they're going to boycott.
Y'all benefited from everything. Y'all youngins benefited from NIL.
What does that mean? We deserve more.
Of course,
everybody.
I agree.
Everybody.
I agree with that.
But we got to face the consequences.
What?
Damn, we got to get it up.
Y'all got to deal with something. Y'all got to do something.
But the women coming in, not this year, but next year, because the ones coming in this year will still be on the rookie contract again. Mm-hmm. The ones the year after, they gonna get more. They probably gonna be making more than us.
No, they are.
I'm hurt.
They are. Yeah. I've been in the meetings. They are.
I need to get in the. I need to get in the field.
You need to come to the meetings.
I gotta get in the meetings because I'm hearing they don't give us. If y'all don't give us what we want, we sit out.
That's a possibility for real.
Yeah.
It was kind of a possibility on the last one, but now I feel like just with the leverage that we have right now, and it's just a time that women's basketball is going crazy. They're really, it's gonna be a time next year.
Ooh, so I'm excited.
But we deserve it.
I'm excited.
So Angel Reese and Dejanay Carrington said that if they don't get their money, they're going to boycott.
Oh, no.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. The WNBA has a short list of stars that could actually make that threat, and sadly, Angel and Dejanay aren't on it. Just the other day, hit this picture here for me, Mateo. I was watching Family Feud. Once again, top 6 answers on the board. Who would you actually miss if the WNBA players had a boycott? Number 1 answer was Caitlin Clark. Number 2 was A'ja Wilson. The third was Angel Reese, but they actually admitted that they don't actually watch WNBA basketball games. 4th answer was that girl that shot against Steph Curry in the three-point contest. That's Sabrina Ionescu. 5th answer was WNBA is still on TV. And the 6th answer is, who the fuck is Dejanay Carrington? I am really trying to not get too upset with you ladies, but Angel Reese, as much as I root for you and I try to kind of smooth out the rough edges with the cheering for you, you are a Dennis Rodman, man. You are not like, Caitlin is the Steph to the league, and A'ja is the LeBron to the league. Caitlin with her logo threes, her exciting passing, and all her attention, 25% of the total revenue just last season. A'ja, the MVP, best player in the league currently, and is, again, just perfectly constructed, high IQ, great player. She's LeBron, Caitlin, Steph. You are Dennis Rodman, and I don't know what to tell you. You are so similar, it's almost fascinating, because both were big personalities that play in Chicago and had a very love or hate relationship with the audience, which made them very popular and very talked about and very famous. They were both winners, but neither was an exceptional talent, at least offensively, in any way that is fun to watch or sells tickets. You are a great defender. You're a great rebounder. You're a glue girl. You're a glue girl. Teammates love you. And you are great as a side pairing. As a mashed potato, you are absolutely awesome to add onto a steak. But if you didn't play, you would get talked about. But the idea that you really think that you move the needle the way that, again, there's a handful of girls that actually move the needle. Caitlin Clark, A'ja Wilson, I'll say last year's champ Sabrina, it's a small number of people that would actually be missed. Angel Reese would be talked about, a la when Dennis Rodman came and left the league. He was always talked about, but nobody bought tickets ticket specifically to see Dennis Rodman by himself. If he was with Michael Jordan, that's awesome. If he was with Isaiah Thomas, that's awesome. But nobody was going out of their way to watch Dennis Rodman try to score 30 points or play an exciting game. He is a glue person. You're a glue person. The league, it is so hard to get past the elephant in the room with all of this discussion. And I think that is what really, again, gets into what riles me up so much, because I always get accused of all sorts of things that I don't think I am and I don't think are the issue. If you can hit the next picture for me, Mateo, it's hard to ignore this elephant. When it comes to the WNBA saying we deserve this, we need that, the elephant that is sitting there, which is that you don't make money. Matter of fact, you don't just not make money. The WNBA has lost $10 million per year on average for the last 25 consecutive years, and currently lost $40 million last season in their record year. And then you come out and ask for a raise. It is just hard to get past this giant orange elephant sitting in front of me, spitting peanuts, trunk is spewing, going, we lose money, and $250 million over the last 25 years. But anyways, but this, but that. What do you want me to say? Like that's tough. It has nothing to do with who you are or your gender or anything else. I look at anybody who has a business that says, I've been bleeding money for 25 years straight, and the only reason I'm alive is because I'm subsidized. But let me tell you about why I deserve. I will probably tune you out no matter who you are. It is a hard elephant to get around, and they keep trying to compare themselves. You heard it in the clip with Angel. You've heard it in other times. They want to keep going NBA. Or, Angel, I guess, had a tweet, we just want to get paid Toy Story money. Toy Story 2 wasn't a good movie. Tom Hanks still got paid. Toy Story 2 made money. Like it's really difficult. And I need to kind of but it's hard to just, again, explain how difficult or almost impossible it is for me to listen to y'all complain about the things you need and the nicer this and the more contracts and yada, 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 when it is all well known that you have not made a single dollar and have actually cost $250 million over the last 25 years that you, quote, deserve more money. It is a hard pill for us to swallow. The new argument, by the way, that you'll hear, and let me at least just cover this, some people now are coming out with this argument that the NBA also did not make money until 1980 when they were established in 1946. I will say that's half true. Here's the part that you're missing. If anyone brings this argument up here for you, the NBA did not make a lot of money over those 40 years, but they did still make money. They were a self-sufficient league. They were not subsidized by the NFL or the government. They still had to keep themselves afloat. And matter of fact, since you want to bring up old times, almost went bankrupt multiple times, including that 1980 year when Magic and Larry showed up. But man, also had 15 teams over their franchise and over the NBA's history fold. The NBA had 15 teams fold over their history, because they could not afford to pay their players. They could not afford it because they were not making revenue, and there was nobody there to hold their hand and tell them they're still awesome and still give them a bunch of money and raises. They had to pack up their asses and go home 15 times. That is more than the entire WNBA 12-team roster, combined. So, if you really want to go there and go into the NBA, that's fine. We can bring up how the NBA did not make much money, but they were still self-sufficient. And yes, they didn't make any real money till 1980, and that took over, 30, 40 years, whatever it was. But they were still not being paid almost completely by somebody else and then asking for more while they were doing it. Yes, they asked for more once they got it, and that's fine because your TV deal is coming up. Even though that TV deal is not going to be as much as you think it is, the TV deal, if you spread it out, is going to be about $12 million per team. And then, they're asking now for private jets and all sorts of stuff. That's going to continue to cost more and more money. That's one of the reasons it went from $10 million lost on average to $35 to $40 million this year. Private jets by themselves are $25 million because they had to have private jets, even though a lot of professional sports teams don't have private jets, because like 2 people came up to them with cell phones and kind of disturbed them. Now their safety was an issue. They basically whined their way into getting private jets that they couldn't afford. That is also going to be something that should be on the team, that should stop being on the onus of the National Basketball Association if you're going to continue to ask for more and more and more and then use words like we deserve. I don't know what else to say. I'll just throw it out here. Let me throw this out because I think this will be the last point of the argument, and then I'm going to almost call it a day. The idea that this is a woman thing is what they always will revert to, and it's definitely the most frustrating part of this. So the best example I can bring up, and I think other people should bring up, when we just roll our eyes at the WNBA hemorrhaging money for 25 years, asking for more and comparing themselves to other, businesses that actually make a profit. Let's just keep it a G. Hit the picture here for me, Mateo. Let's take away the anti-woman thing and let's just keep it a G. Let's keep it in the G League because that's the best comparison we can go with. And some of y'all will balk at that, but hear me out. The NBA G League is also subsidized by the NBA. The NBA G League also has very hardworking people. The NBA G League also has former NCAA All-Stars. They have a full rosters of passionate and wonderful people, but they are also a business that cannot sustain themselves and rely on the National Basketball Association to pay their contracts. Is any of this ringing a bell? Which is even more of a fun fact is that until 2 years ago, they were actually getting more attendance than the WNBA and making less money. The Texas Legends' average attendance in 2022 was more than 75% of the WNBA teams. At their 5,840, they had more average attendance than the Aces, Liberty, Sparks, Suns, Dream, Fever, Mystics, or Wings. And currently, we're making $40,500, which is a little bit different than the WNBA's average salary of $102,751. And oh, by the way, played in more games as well. No private jets, no pampering, no one listening to them complain. Matter of fact, if anybody from the Texas Legends did come up to anyone like me and said, hey, man, dude, I want to make more money. This isn't fair. I need private jets. I'm just as good as the NBA players. I would tell you, no, you're not. And no, you don't. I'm in the G League MVP. I'll bet I can beat Giannis Antetokounmpo. No, you can't. Well, I deserve a bunch of money. I'm passionate. I really love this game. So do a lot of people. So do a lot of people in any job. The idea that you deserve it because you like it and you work hard, and it's just this naivete that's, I mean, look, talk to nurses, talk to teachers, talk to firefighters in California and ask them how they're doing with their paychecks. Do they deserve more? Ask people in the food service industry, the hospitality industry. How about in entertainment, podcasters? I worked my ass off, believe it or not, on this, and 99% of podcasters don't get paid at all. Only 1% actually makes a decent living off podcasting. You don't hear me going to Bill Simmons or Joe Rogan asking them for more money because I don't earn it yet. Jerry Seinfeld back in 1989, when it was the Seinfeld Chronicles, everyone knows about the money he made. Nobody knows in 1989, they actually called the show the Seinfeld Chronicles in his first season, only made $20,000 an episode. It took 9 seasons to get to that $1 million contract that everybody loves to bring up now. But I mean, I don't know what else to say. Y'all keep wanting to make us the issue. You keep wanting to make men the issue. You want to make the patriarchy the issue. And then when we have any sort of hesitation or pushback, it just gets thrown in your face. And I think people are getting tired of it. You have an image issue that goes way beyond professional sports, women, basketball, or anything else, because there's a lot of women making a lot of money in professional sports currently. Tennis, Coco, and Osaka are like top 5, including the men. UFC, Ronda Rousey still has 2 of the highest paychecks ever in UFC history in her fights, making like $4 and $5 million a fight. U.S. women's soccer now gets paid just as much as the men's soccer team because they earned it and they deserved it. They got equal pay now. NCAA, NIL deals, Livy Dunn is like 4th or 3rd out of all college athletes in money paid. Caitlin just made $10 million in endorsements to go with her, a little bit of WNBA contract. Simone Biles just made $10 million in endorsements. There are women making bank all over the place, and y'all aren't. And you continue to try to live in this bullshit narrative that it's all because of this and patriarchy and all that. And I mean, it's just fascinating because just one Google search will tell you it's the men doing the sport. That's the other part that really, I'll throw this out and I'll shut up. The men are 60 to 70% of the audience currently in the WNBA. Currently. Men are 60 to 70% of the entire audience of the WNBA, ticket sales, jersey sales, everything else. Men are the ones supporting you. NBA players, the one that you bitch don't give you enough stuff, are by far the most supportive of any athletes, of anyone I've ever seen pushing WNBA, talking WNBA. I have never seen other athletes more supportive of any other league than NBA players of WNBA players. And women, meanwhile, are 80%, anywhere from 70 to 80% of all consumer money spent, and they are 30% of your audience. Yet every time y'all complain, you come to us. You come to the basketball fan, the one who does watch some of your games, the ones that do support you, the ones that do go out of their way to buy tickets. Somehow it's still our fault, and it's just, it's frustrating. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go, but I mean, again, this is just bananas that we have to keep having this conversation. I don't know what else to say. Ladies, you have an image issue that needs to be worked on, nuanced, constructed, something, but y'all got to stop repeating the same stuff. I said this 2 years ago, and it just fell on deaf ears. They don't need to listen to me. They need a friend that'll actually talk to them. True friends actually, tell you what's going on. They don't silently watch you fail. You need somebody that you respect to put those numbers and all that, put them together and present them to you, because it's getting really hard to ignore all the elephants in the room. Speaking of animals, I got one quick little cute video I'm going to call it. Okay, Mateo? I know he wants to wrap all this up. I got one cute video. Wait 1 second, I'm going to tell people about it. I have always said this, and I want to leave on a good note because I was getting kind of negative and cranky and bitchy, and people are probably going to be mad at me. I want to leave on a good note. Hope is a three-legged dog. Hope is a three-legged dog. What do I mean by that? Just the other day, I was watching a halftime show, and this went viral. Now hit the video, March 8th, at a basketball game. There was a race between several adorable little corgis. They got it done real quick, but there was one straggler in the back, 14-year-old named Yumi, who uses a wheelchair for support with his back legs. And it took him a little bit longer, but as the crowd cheered, he stole everyone's hearts and was able to just kind of steal the entire show. As they said, quote, "He may not have won this year's race, but Yumi certainly won his way into our hearts. It's an excellent lesson to make the best of what you're given." And this reminded me of something I've always said. Hope is a three-legged dog, and people look at me cross-eyed when I say that. The reason I say Hope is a three-legged dog, because you ever seen a dog with 3 legs? You ever seen one? No matter how or why it happened, no matter how tragic, a 3-legged dog is always happy and is quickly able to move on. I mean, literally right after it happens. They don't get up and go, "Why don't I have 4 legs?" They don't resent other dogs that have 4 legs. They don't ask why. They don't sit and feel sorry for themselves. They can go to sleep with 4, wake up with 3, and within seconds are suddenly able to just keep it pushing. They'll just wake up and go, "Hey, what's for lunch? Can we go on a walk?" Probably a shorter walk, but can we go on a walk? The ability to say, "I did not lose a 4th leg. I am grateful I still have 3, is why I've always said Hope is a 3-legged dog. And yes, I know they're simple creatures, but there's a lesson to be learned in that just attitude and kind of perseverance that even a simple-minded kind of creature could give you. But just the idea that, the resentment is just like drinking poison then waiting for the other person to die is a famous phrase for a reason. Just, do what you can, make the best of it the way that, little Yumi here made the best of it. He did his best. He's a winner. And I just thought it was a nice way to end the show here to let you and remind you that Hope is a 3-legged dog. All right, I got to go. You guys enjoy your day. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.